The wait is finally over because as you guys know it, Imperial is back. Starting with the Digi-Egg cards, we're running 4 copies of Demi V, just ensuring with the draw power as long as we have a green Digimon when attacking, which we always do because when we do our DNA, both our top ends when it comes to it are both blue and green anyways. So when we're attacking, we're always drawing for sure. And I would recommend these 4 eggs, but we definitely have other ones to suggest later on as well. Let's talk about our level 3s and start with V-Mons here. Of course, 4 copies of the BT12 one just for this searching effectiveness, grabbing any free trait Digimon, which is basically any Digimon card in the deck, and as well as grabbing yourself a Davis Tamer, which is really crucial for sure. And the end of turn DNA is actually very, very important to bridge into your combos as you go into it. Then I'm running 3 copies of the promo Vmon just because it can have its Digivolution cost reduced as you go into any free trait, whether you're Digivolving to XV or Sting, always really helpful. And the Inheritable, when attacking, as long as this Digimon is 2 or more colors, you get to draw 1, and it's not once per turn as well. You guys know we unsuspend a lot, so we get a lot of draw power from this particular one as well. As for Wormmons, which is Vmon's partner, also 4 copies of the BT12 version. Very similar effect when it comes to the searching capability, grabbing yourself any free trade Digimon, and as well as a Tamer with Ken in his name this time. Most of your Tamers that you run actually in this deck are both Davis and Ken anyways, so it's incredibly effective when it comes to that. And of course, end of turn DNA, which is going to be really crucial as we talk about it more in the combos. Then for the other Wormmon, I'm running 2 copies of the promo Wormmon from the movie pack. It also searches top 3, but this one in particular can only grab you a 2-color blue or green Digimon card alongside with Ken, but overall still really good for searching, and as well as with its Inheritable, with its end of turn DNA, just like the other 2. Speaking of Wormmon, there's actually a green-based version that I'm working on this deck, and I know many of you guys are excited for the virus version as well, so if you guys want to see it before everyone else, make sure to join the AVAULT Club. But don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell because in BT17, we're going to be getting a all-new Imperialdramon, which is Paladin mode Ace. And just like you guys, I can't wait to cover it on the channel when it comes, so definitely stay tuned. Level 4 is XVmon. Lots have changed. The BT12 XVmon is now just absolutely fantastic because you gain a memory when you attempt to DNA Digivolve. It gives you the Inheritable jamming, which is always what you need as you're swinging into security safely so you don't get deleted. Otherwise, the secondary one now is going to be the EX1 XVmon with jamming, providing jamming, Inheritable as well. We don't do the early chipping with that combo as much anymore because gaining the memory is far more crucial now and gives you a ton more value. And as for Stingmon, the same applies because then the BT12 one also gains you a memory when you go for a DNA. This one gives you piercing as the Inheritable. You guys can play this as a 4-of as well, but I kind of like to do a 3-3 split with the older one just because this one can sometimes still hard play with 3 costs, reducing it by 1 as long as you have a blue Digimon, and it also gives you that Inheritable of draw power. So having a even split has been working out for me so far, but again, you guys can do a 4 and 2 and whatever you prefer based on your play style. And now let's talk about our level 5s with the brand new Imperialdramon, which is essentially the core boss Digimon engine of the entire deck. Just like before, you're DNA Digivolving with a blue and a green level 4, which is going to be your XV and Stingmon mainly. Thanks to the brand new keyword partition, the deck now has a bit more floating capability and comeback potential because when this Digimon will leave the battle area, aside from battle or by your own effects, you get to play out your XV and your Stingmon back out. And keep in mind, you have to have both of them underneath the Imperialdramon at the time in order to trigger and resolve this effect fully. But it has that when Digivolving effect, suspending all your opponent's Digimon with equal or fewer sources than this Digimon has. And then if you DNA Digivolve, their Digimon can't unsuspend until the end of their turn. And lastly, it has a when attacking once per turn effect that can suspend down one of your opponent's Digimon. And if you didn't, you unsuspend this Digimon, which is just like the good old one, making a ton of attacks in one single go. Lots of damage out there. And speaking of that, we still run 2 copies of the older one just for the unsuspending mechanic and just to make multiple attacks. Doesn't have protection, but it still lets you bottom deck one of your opponent's Digimon that has 6000 DP or less as well. And then to round off for the rest of the level 5s with my DNA target, there's also Dino B, which is really helpful for swinging over things, and with its Inheritable potentially trashing security is always nice. Then for level 6s, the all new Dragon mode. Fantastic when it comes to additional control because it can suspend things down and prevent stuff from unsuspending and unsuspend itself. But mainly with its all turns effects, when your opponent plays a Digimon or Digivolves via an effect, you can Digivolve into any fighter mode from your hand for no cost at all. This is effectively kind of help you triggering into sort of like an ace mechanic or some kind of trap against your opponents to prevent them from doing certain things and to counter them during the turn, which is absolutely really cool. And we'll show you guys more when it gets to the combos. But of course, I still like to run one copy of the older starter deck 9-1 just because you can potentially go into it to play out your level 4s back again. You can play out your XVs, your Stings, or even anything that's like a level 3 as well to further search. And then you can also re-DNA all over again and make, you know, extending combos and extending attacks, which is still very, very explosive when you have access to it. And of course, now as we move into fighter mode, there is the Ace version, which is the brand new hand counter blast Digi-evolving target of the deck. It can return your opponent's Digimon with as many or fewer Digivolution cards to the bottom of the deck. End of attack, once returned, you get to unsuspend this Digimon, and if you have Dragon Mode underneath it, you get to continue to bottom deck your opponent's suspended Digimon non-stop, which is always really good. And you have a really good synergy with the new Dragon Mode as well, because you don't necessarily have to get into this during the counter timing, just because if they play a Digimon by an effect or Digivolve via an effect, you can get straight into this, which is always handy. And you don't always need Dragon Mode, you can just go straight into this from a Imperialdramon as well to do exactly the same thing. And then for the other fighter mode, I like to run one copy of the BT12 one just because it has that when Digivolving aspect, suspending all your opponent's Digimon with no sources. You get to bounce your opponent's suspended Digimon, or you can potentially just bottom deck everything if you can return a Dragon Mode back to your hand. And of course, itself, it's a blocker and has security attack as well and gains extra DP, which is always really handy, alongside with the brand new Dragon Mode as well. Now that we're done with all our Digimon, let's talk about Tamers. The all new Davis and Ken is just absolutely phenomenal because it continues to let you play your Wormmon and Vmons at the start of the main phase. It returns it back to your hand as well at the end of the opponent's next turn so that you can recycle them as long as they don't get removed. And by doing so, you can continue your searches, play your rookies out, and then you can Digivolve into your 4s way quicker than before. Arguably, you might even want to run 4 copies because this is a card that you want to see as often as possible because it has that secondary effect. When you Digivolve, you can gain memory back. And if you DNA Digivolve, you can trash up to 3 any sources off of your opponent's Digimon to synergize with your Imperialdramon's effect. But the only reason why I'm running 3 copies is because I still like to tech in 1 copy of the older one, just because you can gain additional memory at the start of your main phase as long as you have blue and green. If you have both, you gain 2. And also with a secondary effect of being able to unsuspend when you Digivolve into a Digimon that has 2 or more colors, it basically provides you additional attacks which you normally don't have. And for the rest of the Tamers, 3 copies of the good old BT3 Davis, mainly as your memory tamer, just because having 3 memory is still really crucial to sort of help bridge with your combos in this particular deck, but also being able to search and find your pieces as quickly as possible is your top-notch priority. Tamers are basically almost everything in the core of this deck. Now let's talk about our options. 2 copies of this brand new Invincible Dragon Insect Fusion, a fantastic option that is gonna let you play your XV, your Stingmon for free, and then you get to DNA. Once you DNA, your DNA Digimon gets blocker and cannot be deleted by battle, which is another additional layer aside from jamming to prevent your opponents from swinging over it the next turn too. Security effect lets you play a Vmon or Wormmon from your trash, and your ideal targets will always gonna be the one that helps you search. And then for further combo extending, of course, HPD is always really great, just because it can help you climb up the stack and build a stronger board as long as you have it. As for removal options, my choices are 1 copy of Megadef and Gigadef. The reason why Gigadef is now really good is because it has a lot of synergy with Imperialdramon being able to suspend down almost everything on your opponent's side of the board. And if they have a really wide board, you basically bottom deck absolutely everything with it. And when it comes down to security, definitely really clutch as well. Tech choices and other cards that you guys can also include in this deck, there's a ton of them. Of course, there's the green stuff, Minomon from BT16 and Wormmon from BT16. Like I talked about earlier, there's a green base that I've been working on. If you guys join the AVAULT Club, you can definitely get to see there, and definitely stay tuned because we might cover it as well later on. But to give you a quick summary, the green base gives you a little bit of a different low-end playstyle in the beginning of stages. Minomon can help you gain a bit of memory. Wormmon can help you suspend a bit more. So it's kind of interesting to see that, and definitely works as well. Then there's also the new Vmon and XVmon, which now have red sources, which mainly provides you additional DP to to help you swing over things. XV has raise, so it can swing over smaller rookies as well alongside with it. And Vmon can help you gain memory back when you Digivolve into anything that is free trait as well. For additional level 4s, I've also considered running Togemogumon and ALittleSpoon, bringing them back because they're both blue and green. Sometimes you're not able to find your Stingmon or your XV and you're missing one specific piece, but having the access to one of these cards help you bridge the gap and boost the consistency so you can go for your DNA simply because they can be treated for both colors. The Togemogumon is just fantastic when it comes to blocker and armor purge, and with its all turns effects, when an opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, you trash a top Digivision card. This actually is a really good card counter against Magna X, being one of the best cards currently in the game as well to slow them down. Otherwise, ALittleSpoon is also fantastic to spin down your opponent's Digimon and they can attack over it still, so to get rid of floodgates mainly. Aside from that, there's also another armor card. You guys can be playing Magnamon. Since you have a lot of Vmons, Magnamon can come in clutch sometimes to give you a little bit more control and a little bit more removal, specifically when it comes to this ST17 one as well. If you guys want to run other Imperialdramons or other DNA targets, this is another good one from BT12 just to trash more sources and also to stun a little bit as well. And it has that inhurtable to help you gain a bit of memory at the end of attack too. Other level 6s, this is one of the most fun parts that I have when it comes to deck building, just because you can potentially play the older Dragon Mode Ace just to, you know, surprise your opponents a little bit, suspend stuff down, play stuff for free as well, play Tamers and such can definitely come in handy. And one of the really neat things is that you can even play Mega Gargomon Ace because you guys know all your level 5s are green. So by being able to get into it, you can get access to a whole new dimension of different effects, reboot blockers, suspend your opponent's stuff, prevent them from digivolving. And this one's definitely a surprising one and a really cool, neat tech because they just won't see it coming. And then for other Digimon, Omnimon is always a great finisher. And anytime when you're trying to push for game, make attacks and unsuspend, you can always use Blitz Omni to help you finish that last attack as well. As for other options, there's also still Hammer Spark and Ice Wall, which are still very applicable into this deck just because they provide you a lot of utility when it comes to memory manipulation overall. Alright, combos and how to play this brand new Imperial. One of the really nice things is that it still pays a lot of homage to how its older playstyle is like. Combo pieces and finding pieces is your utmost priority. Therefore, you know, you want to see your Wormmon, you want to see your Vmon in your opening hands, and you actually need to see your Tamers as soon as possible, especially the new Davis and Ken. Otherwise, you want to see the old Davis to continue to find pieces as you search. And the really interesting thing is usually you would actually Digivolve in the back, but not really, because you'd be playing these guys to search and find your pieces like I mentioned. By having them out in the board, that is when you have your second copies of them. Or ideally would be even this Vmon, that's when you would sort of Digivolve in the back once you have established another one. Because once you have these Tamers, you want to have them as soon as possible. There's no way to play these Tamers out for free, so your duty is to play them out yourself as quickly as you can. Of course, when it checks in security, it's going to give you a lot of value, but how you're going to be playing it is then you're going to find all your other combo pieces right here via those cards bit by bit afterwards. Don't worry about them. You get access into them. That's how you find your pieces and continue. Let's just say you start your turn at 3 memory. You can push out your Vmon right here, and at the start of main, you get to play either your V or your Wormmon via the new Davis and Ken. If you have multiples, you can resolve multiple of them and play multiples and continue the search that way. That's when you find your XV. That's when you find your Stingmon. That's when you find your Imperialdramons. This is the most important key start to get into, because now you can then Digivolve into this Vmon, reduce the cost by 1, and then you can Digivolve into either of these guys here. And then you can immediately say the turn passes because you might not have the memory tamer. This is when you can DNA with the end of turn, which is really crucial, so that you can tuck it underneath and you will go into Imperialdramon. Of course, you do not chip with your XVs at all. You just go straight into Imperialdramon and suspend down all your opponent's Digimon with equal or less sources. And you also gain memory back because of XV and Sting. And you also gain memory back with this. Therefore, not having a Davis that as a memory setter is not as important as it used to be. But of course, you still want to see it as much as you can just because of its searching capabilities, and it just ensures you from getting into access to these combos with a bit less memory of gaining effects that you need to. Because sometimes you don't always get to see this particular lineup. You might sometimes find this Stingmon instead, which is great. for hard playing, or sometimes you might just have this XV. Therefore, that's when this Davis really helps in with the memory setter. And once you DNA Digivolve, this is when you want to utilize this Davis and can suspend to gain that memory back and then trash 3 sources of any of your opponent's Digimon, and the multiples you have is also again the same thing, and then you can resolve the when Digivolving effect to stun their board. Now keep in mind, there are some situations that you might have to preemptively use this as you're Digivolving first on top of your rookies, just to make sure that you have the memory to keep your turn to continue those combos. But once Imperialdramon is out, you basically do the classic combo. You can swing over their suspended Digimon now without fear. You get to draw a ton of cards with Vmon Demi V. And if the opponent doesn't have any Digimon for you to suspend down, you get to unsuspend Imperialdramon effectively. And drawing those cards and swing over that Digimon, you can pierce and have jamming, which has a ton of removal all in one go, which is absolutely insane. If the Digimon and the entire stack is ever in threat outside of battle from effect deletions and removal and so on, that's when you can use partition to play them back out. Otherwise, if it continues to be here, you continue to attack and attack and attack, and the stunning of the board is a blanket effect on all the opponent's Digimon as long as you DNA Digivolve, which is insane. Now, once you draw a lot of cards, you can either leave it standing or rested, whatever, and then this is when there's 2 options. You can either go into Dragon mode, or if you left it rested, if you have fighter mode ace in your hand, if your opponent tries to attack into it or try to threaten it, this is when you can always blast Digivolve and skip it and go straight into fighter mode. If not, when you go into dragon mode, you can control the board even further, suspend something down, prevent something from unsuspending as well, and then you can unsuspend itself and you're still at your turn with the memory. You can still swing, and again, if you ever are threatened in any deletion effects and removal, you still have partition in the inheritable, which is absolutely really good, because once you spit them back out once again, you can repeat the same combos all over again. But one of the nice things with the dragon mode is that all turns, when an effect plays opponent's Digimon, when they Digivolve via an effect, and so on, this is when you can always go into a fighter mode without necessarily going into the ace counter timing of attacking. So you can disrupt your opponent's turn even without them attacking because of this, and that's just really, really cool, because being able to do that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go into fighter mode ace. You can go into the good old BT12 one, suspend down your opponent's board as well, and then bottom deck your dragon mode and send everything that's suspended to the bottom deck as well. And this is the reason why I play both of them here. Otherwise, I still like the classic combo sometimes. You can go into this older dragon mode, play these 2 out. Keep in mind, you will forego the partition inheritable here now, but at least if you know you can continue to aggressively attack over and over again with another Imperialdramon, you can easily just DNA all over again, gain the 2 memory back into this Imperialdramon and do the same thing, attack, unsuspend, attack and unsuspend, and go for piercing all over again. And let's just say in another situation, as long as you have this Davis and Ken, you can always use this Invincible Dragon Insect Fusion option to give you an access into a Stingmon. Now you can play this one for effectively 3 costs because this one plays it for free, and then you can proceed to DNA right away as well back into Imperialdramon. But not only that, it gains blocker and it cannot be deleted by battle. So not only it gains jamming for aggressively to attack into your opponents will not be able to swing over it for 1 whole turn as well, giving that kind of protection. And if it ever gets threatened in another way, you always have partition to come out and save it as well. And that's kind of how you play. A lot of it revolves around the Imperialdramon level 5 now, very, very similar to the old style, but you just get a lot more beefed up and stronger effects, swing over stuff, attack non-stop, and then your top end are your utility tools to help you extend and finish games even further. And that's kind of how you play it. Really, really cool stuff, really fun, really exciting, super happy that this got all this new support, and we can finally become tier 1 all over again. Watch this gameplay video to see all these crazy combos in action and learn how to play the deck. Special thanks to premium members and deluxe members. As always, you guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video. And this is AVAULT signing out.